Macaroni. Macaroni. Macaroni? Vous vous moquez de moi. Qu'est-ce que vous voulez dire par macaroni? N'importe pas, c'est un cas italien dans le périmètre de... Julien, Jalot, 4 Waterloo, tu es un païen absolu. Tu gaspilles la vie. Chaque chose que tu publies est un affront de Dieu. Tu es un blasphémateur. Suivez-moi, je fais de l'art, and I can see some visuals. Oh merde, c'est ton chat. Mais...
transcending time. Transcending time. Just in the frame, trying to capture justice. World is full of complications surrounding troubles to expose when I put the things I face. Present, future, connection to the past. At the limit is open on my face. Floating, manifesting and see this. First step is now, let it fade away, then everything ends. I can finally see the way it goes to one heart scattered around in the skies. Intentions over beings with life. Draw between the stars and beyond. Move the distance, now transcending time. Jump in, feel the prospects. Squeeze under our lens image. Ignite and lead. Transcending time. Out of the stars of our lives about it. Get this back and see. Return of all lives. Dividing the place, a prediction failing, and identifiable creatures surviving. Ripple down like fiction, what is on its way? Solid and move regardless. Go on, deep running energy, so caught in flame. Shining, how good this and how did you been saved? Over my flesh, that it bears away the precedented. I will enter in to protect us there. To find thoughts unspoken in the air. See the pain and despair. Activate the seeds to change. Taking a step, ready to sign. Move the distance, now transcending time. Jump in, feel the prospects. Squeeze under our lens image. Ignite and lead. Transcending time. Out of the stars of our lives about it. Get this back and see. Return of our life. Transcending time. My soul closed the face confined. I've been lost with the future in mind. Every night they're waiting through hope of a ride. No love in this life. Transcending time. Jump in, feel the prospects. Squeeze under our lens image. Ignite and lead. Transcending time. Out of the stars of our lives about it. Get this back and see. Return of our life. Transcending time. Jump in, feel the prospects. Squeeze under our lens image. Ignite and lead. Transcending time. Out of the stars of our lives about it. Get this back and see. Return of our life. Transcending time.
Redefine a bright light eternal, the meaning of my line to find.
Transcending time.
We go multi-dimensional. Give me the vision to rise to arise.
Transcending time.
Ain't never seen something quite like it. And when we play, we don't stop fighting. Won't see it coming fast like lightning. We'll save the day, they can't deny it. Higher, higher, we're about to set this game on fire, fire. They can't bring us down. We're that whole new type of hero, hero. We gon' win whatever we go, we go. Explosions in the sky, with something quite like it. And when we play, we don't stop fighting. Won't see it coming fast like lightning. We'll save the day, they can't deny it. Higher, higher, we're about to set this game on fire, fire. They can't bring us down. We're that whole new type of hero, hero. We gon' win whatever we go. Explosions in the sky, bending space and time. We're that whole new type of hero, hero.
Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. And once again before we begin, if you enjoy my content and still haven't subscribed, now is the chance to correct that and join us. Now let's get started with today's story. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Zwartflamme. My 31 male, mom 54 female and my sister 32 female hate my girlfriend 29 female. As the title says, my mom and my sister hate my girlfriend. I live in the US, but I am originally from Europe. My whole family still lives in my home country. My girlfriend and I have been together for over 5 years. Recently, there was a short breakup between us. I was the one who broke it off. I have some mental issues, and I was in a really bad place at the time, so I ended things with her. A month went by and we got back together. But anyway, over the last 5 years, my girlfriend and I have visited my home country twice. The first time, my family was excited to meet her. They were glad I had found someone, etc. All seemed to be well. The second time, they weren't as warm. In fact, there was a night when we were all over at my parents' house and my mom and my sister were sitting right across the table from my girlfriend talking badly about her in our native language. I was livid. They told me how I could do so much better, that she's weird, she's not pretty enough, she's not successful enough, etc. We were supposed to go over there a third time and stay with my sister. Well, my sister told me around the time we were going to buy the plane tickets that we might want to rethink this trip because we weren't allowed to stay with her. I asked my mom if we could stay with her, and my mom told me she had no problem with me staying with her, but that my girlfriend would have to find somewhere else to stay. I asked why, and her answer was, because I don't like her and I don't want her in my house. Neither of them can give me a concrete reason why they don't like her. So they both stopped talking to me for a while. Now we are in very low contact. My sister and I were really close too. We are not even a year apart in age and we were best friends growing up. Now I talk to her every few months and my mom even less than that. Mom and I have never been close though. But last I talked to my sister, my girlfriend and I were still split up. I've been wanting to tell her we are back together, but I'm afraid of the drama it will cause. I can just hear it now. Oh, you finally made a good decision for once, and then you had to F it all up and get back with that bee. I have mental problems. I have suffered from psychosis in the past. I also deal with depression and OCD. OCD is the one that causes me the most distress, honestly. I don't know if they think my girlfriend is to blame for these issues. They couldn't possibly think she made me like this. That's ridiculous. My parents had high expectations for me when I was a kid. They constantly pushed for more from me. Do they expect me to be with a millionaire who is also a lingerie model and has an IQ of 250? Someone like that wouldn't be a fit for me. My girlfriend was my rock when I was going through some really hard times. It's like they don't even care about that. So, does anyone have any advice on this situation? And also, how should I tell my sister? She wants to talk on Skype later. She will figure it out even if I don't tell her because she will see it in the background that I am living in my old house again. Thanks everyone. Well, OP, I think that regardless if she can or not tell that you're back together with your ex-girlfriend, or now your girlfriend, of course, because you're living in the same house, then just go ahead and say it as soon as you start the conversation. Hi sis, and just in case you're wondering, yes, I got back together with my girlfriend. We're happy, we're doing good, so all is fine. What's up? And if she starts giving you a hard time because you got back to, like you said, that you would F it all up again or something like that, then I'd ask her point blank. I would ask her to give me one concrete example of why they don't like my girlfriend. Like, what did she do? Not just a feeling thing. No, don't give me that. Give me a reason. You've only seen her twice. The first time you saw her, you were really happy. The second time, you were being rude. So what happened and what was the context? And if she doesn't want to give you an answer, it's probably because she's embarrassed of the reason why she doesn't like your girlfriend, in which case it can't be valid. Or else I'd assume she would just tell you up front, you know what, your girlfriend did this or said this and it rubbed me the wrong way. Not just some lame excuse like, oh, you could do better or she's weird. No. And if she still refuses to give you a straight answer, then that's your cue to remain low to no contact. And your mom, of course, by extension. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? How would you go about it? Let me know in the comment section. And now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Simarchetti1 says, honestly, it sucks they can't be supportive, but your mom and sister aren't dating her. I would confront them and ask them why they don't like her, but even then, it doesn't really matter. You can decide for yourself if your girlfriend is good enough or not. From the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like they have any reason to not like her. I used to let my parents' opinions of who I dated matter, but I realized I missed out on good guys because I let what they said get into my head. As long as you feel confident with her, then their opinions shouldn't affect your decisions. I only feel it's necessary to take their opinion if you are with someone who is actually a bad choice, abusive, controlling, etc. But if they have no valid reasons, then I wouldn't sweat it. You said it yourself. She's been there with you through some tough times, and that says a lot about her and your relationship. Don't let something like this ruin what you've got. Deleted says, it seems to me that they associate the negative stuff going on in your life with her. So in their mind, if she goes, the bad stuff goes. I would do one last Hail Mary taking responsibility for your own crap and explain to them how the most negative thing in your life right now is their attitude to the one person who actually supports you. If they can't get it through their thick skulls, leave them in the past and focus on the good and positive in your life. Candy Metalman says, it's too bad they don't like her, but who is there for you on a day-to-day basis? Who do you cuddle with at night to go to sleep? If someday you decide to have kids, who's going to be the one to give you that magnificent gift? Not your mom or sis. Once they see that you're going to be with her regardless, they'll start to accept her. They might be forced to at first, but then it will just flow. You have to live your life for what you want. If you don't, you'll just resent them down the road, which will cause arguing between you guys. Good luck, my friend. I'd love to hear how it goes. Big smiley face. Additional information from OP's comments. Thank you to those who actually read my post and commented on the situation at hand instead of going back through my post history and finding anything and everything to use against me. I really appreciate it. For everyone else, I am in therapy and have been for years. It has been about 5 years since my last and only psychotic episode. I am currently not depressed. OCD is the big one I deal with now. Not only am I in therapy, but I have also made some major changes to how I live my life. I gave up all drugs, I rarely drink, and I also gave up most processed foods. I say most because it's really hard in this society never to eat anything processed. I would be lying if I said I was 100% raw and organic, etc. Also, I have been in the psych ward once. I attempted to end my life. I don't refuse medication. The medication I've tried didn't work for me, so I decided to take a more alternative, less pharma-based approach to my own healing. Personally, I don't think there is a right or wrong way to deal with mental health issues. Different things work for different people. No meds and CBT are helping me a lot. Now that that is out of the way, I'll say that I've stuck up for my girlfriend. The night they were talking bad about her, I got mad at them both, and a pretty epic shouting match ensued between all three of us. They know I'm unemployed, so I can only guess they know she is financially supporting me right now. I am looking for a job and working on my mental health. I have an interview next week. About the trip, I wasn't going to make her see my family for a third time. We both wanted to go over there for an event that was happening in my home city. Of course, I asked to stay with my sister because traveling abroad isn't cheap, and my girlfriend had no issue with staying with my sister. She gets along fine with my sister's husband and her kids. She also gets along great with my dad, my brothers, and all of my cousins. She and one of my cousins have actually become good friends over time. And I have friends over there who really like her, so it's not like I was twisting her arm, making her go somewhere where the only people she would see are people who don't like her. There are plenty of people over there who do like her, and she wanted to go to see them. Okay, well, I think the community gave OP some pretty helpful advice from different angles, of course, and OP also gave us some background on what's going on with him, because apparently some people went digging in his past, and I guess some people also were wondering why OP was taking his girlfriend. Pretty good explanation right there. So now, let's move on to the update to see how the story ends, but before we get there, if you're liking this video so far, please go ahead and click that like button, and if you haven't subscribed, consider doing so now. And now, let's continue with the update. So, like I said in the thread, my sister wanted to talk to me that night on Skype. And just like I figured, she saw the room in the background, and the first thing she said was, "What are you doing at her house?" I tried to tell her that I don't think of it as her house. I think of it as our house. We both lived there together for 5 years. Both of our names are on the rental agreement. It's not her house. So after that, I didn't have to say much. She knew we were back together and she went off on me. She went on a tirade about how I was finally starting to show some improvement. What was I thinking? She should have known I was just going to screw it up, etc. And this was all on the computer when my girlfriend was home. It was in my native language, so my girlfriend couldn't understand it, but she could tell it was a heated conversation. She asked if everything was okay, and I shook my head and told her I would talk to her about it later. So then, I'm not even off the phone with my sister for half an hour, and my mom starts blowing up my Facebook messages, basically saying all the same stuff my sister already said. But of course, she added that she and my dad always expected so much more out of me. I could have really done great things with my life, but instead, I decided to surround myself with bad people and live a crappy existence. Gee, Mom, I wonder why OP has so many problems. Thanks for that. My girlfriend saw how upset I was by all of this and did what she could do to help. But I really just needed to be alone for a while, so I went out driving around for an hour or so. So basically, over the last 10 days or so, the relationship I had with my mom and my sister has pretty much unraveled. They both told me that it was basically her or them. Well, in my opinion, blood is not always thicker than water. You can't choose your family. My girlfriend is the one who was in the hospital sleeping on a futon when I was recovering from my darkest moment. My family wasn't there. My girl helped support me while I was unemployed. Yes, I have a job now. My girlfriend was my rock through a lot of hard times. Yes, I did lean on my sister a lot too, but my sister clearly doesn't care much about what makes me happy. I don't know if this means my dad and my brothers won't talk to me now either. I guess I will find out. To me, this seems so petty. I just can't understand how they could be this way. My sister and I aren't even a year apart in age. We were best friends growing up. Does that mean nothing? Neither of them can tell me what they don't like about her other than she's just not good enough. They both have said I could do so much better. I would love to know what they mean by so much better. The only thing I can think of, and this is really digging, is the second time we were over there, a whole bunch of us went out drinking. It was me and my girl, my sister and her husband, and a couple of my cousins. It was in the middle of winter, and Norway can be pretty brutal compared to the US. There was all this snow on the ground, and when we went home, somehow we all ended up drunkenly playing in the snow in front of my mom's house. At one point, my sister fell on her ass into this pile of snow and she rolled over to try to get up, and I softly, playfully shoved her face in the snow. As I was doing that, my girlfriend came up behind me and put some snow down the back of my pants, and that was the moment my mom came outside and started yelling at all of us for being too loud. Maybe Mom thought that my girlfriend and I were being violent? I don't know. It really was just all innocent play, and we were drunk. I've thought about that before and wondered if that's what actually started this, because after this, my mom had a real problem with my girlfriend not speaking our language. I come from Norway and my girlfriend is American with Irish-Italian roots. I was told that my girlfriend should have learned it out of respect, as if learning another language were easy. Whatever. I know I made the right choice. My girlfriend is an amazing person and she's been a huge part of my life for years. I can't even imagine being with anyone else. So, that's what happened if anyone cares. Thanks. OP's edit. I just thought of something else. I can't believe I didn't think of this one sooner. My sister walked in on my girlfriend and I having sex once. She wasn't too happy about it, mainly because it was going on in her house. It was in the morning. She didn't knock or anything. She just flung the door open to ask if we were awake. Well, we were awake alright. Lol. We were under the covers. It's not like she saw much, but still. And then I remember she told my mom about it and my mom was pissed. I don't know. We are adults. Did they think we weren't sexually active? Maybe. Well, OP, I absolutely agree with you. Based on everything that you've shared, you made the right choice. And regarding why your mom and your sister hate your girlfriend or dislike her, stop thinking for things that could have been. You're gonna spend or waste a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't really matter. Now, I am very ignorant regarding OCD. I hope this doesn't mean that you're gonna obsess about why your mom and your sister don't know. Hopefully, you can get over this and just continue your life and be happy with your girlfriend. So, having said all that, here's wishing you the best in the future, OP. Thank you so much for sharing and take care. And now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user MutedProblem7700. I really have to shake everyone's hand? Okay. This happened like 15 years ago in Germany. I was in my apprenticeship in a big coal mine, once the pride of German industry. We were 50 apprentices every year. Here you have to do 3 years of apprenticeship before you become an electrician, for example. And my company employed around 4,000 people at that time. The coal sector in Germany was in decline, and it was cheaper to import coal from China, Poland, or Australia. So the company got big subsidies from the state, and it showed. Stuff wasn't replaced, people had to do more shifts. All in all, there was an atmosphere, especially in management, of having to prove you are still useful in a sense. While most people were pretty chill, retirement plans for the older workers were solid, and we younger people knew we weren't going to work there long term from the beginning. The upper management still wanted to show they were the big shots. So one day, all the apprentices were called into a big meeting with the top manager of our section, and he told us that we had too many sick days. He even had a full PowerPoint presentation with how many days we had and what was the reason. There were charts and figures and such stuff. The whole management spiel. In the end, his idea was that from now on, we all had to give our sick notice to him personally in his office on the first day of absence. This is kinda not 100% legal, I guess. I'm no lawyer. But we were all young people and had little to no knowledge about this. Why he wanted to do it this way was clear. He thought many of us were faking their sickness to get a long weekend or whatever. Up to then, you only had to phone in when you were sick and could either send your doctor's notice by mail or bring it in and leave it at the office receptionist. That wasn't good enough anymore, I guess. Directly the week after the meeting, I had a bad stomach bug. Don't ask me what it was. Maybe I ate something bad or it was just the season. No idea. After I was in my parents' bathroom all night, I got to my doctor's first thing in the morning, and I got a doctor's notice and was instructed to not be in close contact with people for the next couple of days in case I was contagious. So I went home and phoned the receptionist at the office to tell them I was sick and I couldn't come in. He transferred me to the manager, who told me I had to hand him the notice personally. No ifs or buts. If I didn't, I would get a write-up or worse. I knew he thought I was lying, and that didn't sit right with me. In all the time there, I only missed work for 1 week, and that was because I had a broken foot. Yes, I worked in a coal mine with a broken foot. I am not nearly as tough as this makes me sound. And I didn't like to be accused like that, even though it was only implied. By law, you are not forced to tell your employer why you are sick, only that you are sick. Anyway, cue my malicious compliance. I said, sure, I'll be right there. I got into my car, drove to my workplace, and got to the office. My manager was in a meeting with some higher-ups in the company, and I was instructed to wait. But as he heard I was there, I was invited into the room full of people in expensive suits who looked like they had serious business to do. Or whatever, maybe the cookies were good there, I don't know. So he made me stand in front of all these important people in the company and made me introduce myself to everyone with a handshake. I didn't protest. Why would I? He insisted. I shook the hands of the manager of production and finances and development and everyone who was there, and I introduced myself. I am sure it was meant to scare me into not having any false sick days anymore. Then, with a triumphant smile, he asked me why I was there, and I pulled out my doctor's notice and gave it to him. Then I said, as you instructed me, I have to give you my doctor's notice in person. I got a bad case of stomach flu this night and just wanted to let you know I will be sick for the rest of the week. Their faces were priceless, and he pushed me out way too fast for me to really cherish the situation. My stomach was better by next week, and the rule about our sick days was lifted. Well, OP, no ifs or buts means no ifs or buts. He wanted you to hand it in person, and that's what you did. The extra mile, that's on him. Thanks so much for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. A quick warning before we begin. This story is kinda strong, like Jerry Springer strong, and there's also mention of child abuse. So if that's a topic or you think this story might make you uncomfortable, you may want to skip it. Also, English isn't OP's native language, so I did some editing and grammar corrections in order to give the story more flow. Now let's get started. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole with an H, and it's by user EmotionalSpirit493. Am I the a-hole for giving my husband's half-cooked sister-in-law a reality check about her BS at a family gathering? Sorry if it sounds confusing. English really isn't my first language and I'm still learning. So, my female 25 husband, male 29, has a very delusional sister-in-law, female 27, who we will call Kelly. Kelly was the girlfriend of my husband's late brother. They were not married, but she was allowed to be called sister-in-law for the sake of their 4-year-old son. Hence the title Half-Cooked Sister-in-Law. Kelly was actually a nice person at first, but her delusional tendencies just go over the top. She once accused one of my husband's cousins of seducing her. In her words, he was madly in love with her, which was never true as he actually was the same to everyone else as he was with her. My issues started with her when she started targeting my husband and requesting all kinds of BS from him. She once asked him to sleep in their unit because she said her son was scared. Mind you, they only had one bed and it was on the floor in the middle of a tiny square room, which was the whole unit. We asked her to just come over to our home, which is bigger and had enough space for her to stay for a while, since we also have a spare room. She and the child could use it. She refused and insisted on my husband to come over. My husband refused and told his mom, who had Kelly to go over to their house and stay for a while. The second incident was when she insisted that my husband should go with her and her child to the mall and spend some time together. This request was because, according to her, she needs help cause she's a helpless single mother with a fatherless child and her child needs a father figure. My husband asked if I could go with them, but she made excuses as to why I couldn't go. My husband then outright refused and said just to bring the babysitter assigned to her kid, cause my mother-in-law sponsored a babysitter for them after all the things she complained about. After all that, Kelly started to pick on things my husband likes. He likes that I wear skin-tight dresses and leggings because they complement my bum. #humblebrag. She started wearing the same clothes. My husband likes certain foods I make for him, so she learns how to make the food and purposely makes too much so she can give some to him in front of me with a crap-eating smile. And it did not stop there. She also tries to copy me as much as she can. Whenever I buy something new, she buys the same thing in the next 3 to 4 days. My husband and I like dogs, so I adopted a puppy. And what do you know? She has one a week after. She copies everything: clothes, makeup, jewelry, etc. It was getting a little creepy. Until one day at a family gathering, she just outright stated that my husband's nephew, her child, looked so much like my husband and would pass off as his kid. And my husband looks nothing like his nephew. His nephew literally has his late father's face, like it was copied and pasted. At the same time, my husband and his brother look nothing alike. I blurted a very audible, "No, they don't." This was followed by my husband's sister saying, "Are you blind? They look nothing like each other. I would say he has his father's face." Kelly then responded, "Actually, people would mistake them for a father and son." She then proceeds to whip out her phone and show the wallpaper of it as my husband and his nephew smiling together. I looked at the phone and her and said, "Oh, is this why you've been trying to get my husband's attention the whole time?" Confused, my mother-in-law asked, "What do you mean?" I then said, "Well, why don't you ask Kelly? She's been trying to get my husband alone with her for some time now. Good thing your son's not an idiot." Kelly then shouts, "What the hell is your problem? I was trying to give my son some normalcy and experience having a family and a father. By trying to take my husband? You are a homewrecker in the making, a stalker and a creep. No wonder no one would date you. God, your child would be better off without his floozy of a mom in his life," I yelled back at her. I stood up, thanked everyone for their time, and proceeded to leave with my husband. On the way home, my husband told me that what I said wasn't nice. I asked him if he was defending her. He said no. He said that Kelly deserved to be told off, but not in a humiliating manner and definitely not in front of the kids. We didn't talk on the rest of the way home. I'm now here typing this out in the toilet. I just really couldn't take her Delulu self anymore, and that's what I exploded. So, am I the a-hole? Well, OP, in my opinion, it's like 95% not the a-hole and just a 5% everybody sucks here. Kelly sucks for sure. She is the a-hole in this situation, no doubt about it. The only reason I'm giving it a 5% where you're a little bit of the a-hole, it's because if you went off on her and did it in front of the kids, yeah, that wasn't kind of cool. But that's it. If the kids would have been in another room or playing outside or whatever, yeah, go off on her. She sucks absolutely. I understand that their situation could be complicated or really sad for that matter, but still, no right to try to drag your husband into her weird little world. And everything she's doing to get his attention is just not right. It's gross. So yeah, she's definitely an a-hole, and in my opinion, again, you're 95% not the a-hole, just a little bit because of the kids present, and that's it. What about you guys? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Soulmate's Mate says, "Not the a-hole. She is in need of a husband. She knows you have a good one. If only she could get you out of the picture, surely your husband would be with her for the sake of his brother. No good options. If you get a restraining order, your nephew or husband is cut from the family. Best I can think of is to have your husband tell her off and tell her not to come by. Have the only time this woman is around your husband be at family gatherings where family members other than you can take the role of shutting her down. Other than her designs for your husband, is she a decent person? If she had a boyfriend, would that settle her down? 'Cause dating apps exist." Curious One 4595 says, "Everybody sucks here. Obviously, sister-in-law is a huge a-hole and she's embarrassing and desperate. She may need mental health assistance since her strange obsession is increasing. You did mishandle the situation and you were unnecessarily cruel about it, and it obviously was inappropriate in front of kids, especially hers. This sounds, including your attack on her, like some trashy Jerry Springer low-class race to the gutter fracas. Have some dignity. Your husband is right." And Jessica 1111 says, "You're the a-hole. It would have been fine until you said that line about the child being better off without his mom and calling her a floozy in front of everyone. She was being low, but you went lower, so you're the a-hole." And to this, OP responded, "I know I could have said it nicely, but can you blame me? I've been keeping quiet because I know my husband wants to handle it himself, but the woman just isn't budging. It was like a boiling kettle ready to flow over, and it did. If you were in my situation with all the stress and emotions of a ticking time bomb, would you have handled it differently?" OP's edit. Thanks for all the comments and votes. This will be a little update on what happened in the past few hours. I get where I may be an a-hole, but with the feelings I had, not really possible. I'm quite the person with anger issues. It has died down a bit because I got some help and also the support of my husband. But there are times when you really just can't control it. By the way, my husband and I had a little talk about the incident. He said I wasn't wrong in the part of correcting her, but was wrong in the part where I insulted her. He was just a little disappointed with how I handled the situation, letting my anger take control of me. As for my mother-in-law, she called us and asked if I was okay. She did reprimand me for my actions, but was also sympathetic to the fact that I was offended by Kelly. She asked if Kelly and I could come over and have a talk, straighten things out, and see if Kelly needs help. She explained how Kelly's actions may not be favorable, but her situation is something to feel pity for. Mother-in-law thought that losing her son, Kelly's husbandish, and having to take care of a child alone was too much for her. This is why she asked if it would be okay if I talked to Kelly and explained to her why what she did wasn't okay. And if Kelly refuses to listen, then mother-in-law said she would have to handle it herself. As for my husband, he understands if I'm not ready to face Kelly, but tells me it would be the better option. She suggested that we go low contact with her for a while, not completely cutting her off for the sake of the child. Update: Kelly's sister saw my post and commented. Biconator Apollo 14 says, "Sister of Kelly here. I don't think Lexi, OP, is the a-hole here. My sister has been a nuisance to everyone. You think she did all that because she's grieving? Hell no, she's been cheating on her boyfriend even before he died. She even wanted to abort the kid because she doesn't know who the father might be, but she lucked out because the kid looks like her dead boyfriend. The bitch even went out of her way to steal my boyfriends. The last straw was my ex-fiance, whom she effed after the death of her boyfriend. None of my family members would talk to her. They cut her off completely. I, on the other hand, have kept tabs on her. She's back crap crazy. Lexi, tell me what time you're going to meet your mother-in-law and that witch. I'll be going with you." Okay, well, the community was all over the place, but the majority comment that said not the a-hole was the one that got the most upvotes. Now, on the story, OP has given us 2 updates, so let's continue with the first one to see what happened next. But before that, if you're enjoying this video so far, please go ahead and click that like button, make a comment, or even subscribe if you haven't done so far. Now, let's move on with that update. So, I went out to speak with mother-in-law and Kelly, she brought her kid, along with my husband, Kelly's sister Kayla, and Kelly's friend and neighbor, Pat. This all happened at my mother-in-law's house. I might shorten some of the parts, and for those who are wondering about father-in-law, he died due to COVID-19. Pat is Kayla's connection to Kelly and her nephew's life. Again, sorry if this sounds confusing. I'm Bisaya and not really that great at English grammar. For starters, mother-in-law asked us about the incident and why it led to me name-calling Kelly, but she let us know that she is recording everything. I told her that it may not be obvious to her, but Kelly has been openly trying to get my husband's attention, like how she wants him over at her house and how she wants to go somewhere with only the 3 of them, to make it seem as though they are a perfect family. Kayla snorted a laugh at the perfect family comment and said, "Really? I thought you already had a guy for that. Wasn't his name David or was it Michelle? Oh wait, it has to be Rashid. You know, the Indian guy you introduced your son to." The comment got my mother-in-law's attention, asking Kayla what she meant, to which Kayla said, "Do you know why Sam, late brother-in-law, didn't want to marry my sister, Mrs. Mother-in-law?" She continued, "It's because he knew of her cheating escapades, and furthermore, Sam was my ex whom she stole by opening her legs." Mother-in-law then looked at Kelly, to which she said it wasn't true, and the reason why he wouldn't marry her is because of Kayla, because Kayla was seducing her husband. Sister-in-law chimed in to say, "In which part are you his wife? You claim my brother is your husband, and you yet were the reason why he died." Side note, brother-in-law died of a heart attack after a very heated argument between them, in which she threatened to take the child and forbade him from ever seeing the kid. In our country, if the child is younger than 7, he must stay with the mother unless the mother is no longer capable. After sister-in-law's contribution, Kayla shouted he was only waiting for the child to be older than 7 to get him off your filthy abusive claws. In all the chaos, mother-in-law is just there sitting and shocked at all the revelation happening in front of her. She thinks that she can redeem Kelly's character in the talk, but it turns out there are no redeeming qualities in her. So when Kayla said something about Kelly abusing her young son, she just couldn't hold it and slapped the crap out of Kelly, which made Kelly fall over. I'm not mentioning the abuse the child went through, it's quite horrific and will only be available to our lawyer. Kelly stood up in tears and anger and said, "Fine, you want that bastard of a child? You can have him. Swallow him up if you can. I don't need any extra baggage to be with me." And took off, leaving the child in my mother-in-law's care. Mother-in-law almost had a heart attack after everything that happened. She was so mad that she had been the reason why this had been going on. In her words, I encouraged her to stay for the sake of the child. I should have filed for custody even before. We told her it wasn't her fault. She was just concerned about the child since he just lost his father. But after that, mother-in-law called up her lawyer friend and asked for help getting custody of the child. She is now in the process of filing for custody on the basis that the mother is a danger to her child and had Kayla and Pat as witnesses for the abuse case. We also had a therapist scheduled for the boy to help him process everything that's currently happening and for him to recover from the abuse. My husband, on the other hand, wanted to get the child and adopt him as our own after everything settled down. This might be my last update, but I will be posting if anything comes up. Thank you, internet strangers, for letting me share this very unusual and crazy situation I had. Whoa, that was a roller coaster, but at least Kelly's out of the picture, mother-in-law's filing for custody, and that kid is in therapy, so those are positives in my book. Anyways, we still have one more update from OP on this situation, so let's finish this story with that. I'm making this post to address people's concerns and also about the things that happened after the filing. So, for the people who asked if Kayla and Pat knew of Kelly's abuse of her child, why didn't they report it? Well, they did actually, and Kayla was the one who reported it after Pat had told her. She even had pictures of the bruise the kid had. But after she reported it, the officers who went in to do a welfare check didn't find anything. Kelly explained that the kid was just too clumsy and the bruises were a result of it. They believed her statement without asking the kid and left without any further investigation. Furthermore, Kelly filed a harassment suit against Kayla. So Pat was the only way Kayla was able to keep tabs on the kid and Kelly. She documented the abuse along the way. We also found out that she was toxic to Sam, accusing him of cheating and also laying hands on him. The guy was too nice to lay hands on women. I guess they got that from their mom. The cheating part might be from their dad. He cheated on mother-in-law multiple times. Twice when she got pregnant with my sister-in-law, Fredalyn, and another kid that mother-in-law miscarried due to finding out about father-in-law's infidelity. Again. As for those who asked how brother-in-law died, I don't really mean he died then and there. He was hospitalized after suffering a heart attack, and then he died. Brother-in-law wasn't the type to watch his diet, so that might be the reason as to why his health dropped so rapidly. While hospitalized, we found out he was diabetic as well, a result of a very unhealthy way of living. He drank soda like it was water and rarely ate anything healthy, only fast food. Didn't really take his meds on time because he believed they were going to kill him one day. So, for the events after the filing, sister-in-law and her husband came to our house for a visit. We had a little talk, and sister-in-law's husband went to have a word with my husband. According to my husband, he was asked why he never stopped Kelly's crazy antics from the beginning, as sister-in-law's husband did when she started to flirt with him. My husband replied that he thought Kelly was a grieving widow with a fatherless child and he didn't want to offend her. He thought it was just her way of coping with the loss. To this I replied, so you really aren't a complete idiot, just a little bit. He was a little offended but accepted still. As he said, he should have stopped things as soon as he thought it was getting a little too awkward. Sister-in-law Fredalyn had also talked to me about the kid. She asked us not to adopt him as it might be a complication in the near future. I asked why, as the child does not inherit the sins of its mother. She said that it might be true, but deciding not to adopt the child and leave him with mother-in-law would be the better option, as it wouldn't fuel any more of Kelly's crazy and toxic behavior. I told her I would talk this out with my husband and try to make him consider all the factors at play. So I'm now going to talk things out with my husband first thing tomorrow morning. I just hope he understands and will accept sister-in-law's suggestions. Wish me luck. Also, I think I might be pregnant. Haven't had my period for 3 days now, and I'm really craving for mango dipped in vanilla ice cream with chili toppings. And that's all we know so far. Of course, if there's anything coming out later, I will be updating you guys about it. Now, on the story, I think Fredolin is on the right track regarding who should adopt the kid. I think it should stay with the mother-in-law and then have family support. And just one side note, I understand that OP is frustrated and that what her husband did with not shutting Kelly down was wrong, but I don't think it's right to just call him an idiot like that in front of everybody. Insulting your partner is never a good way to go in my opinion. In any case, thank you so much for sharing, OP, and hope you got that mango dipped in vanilla ice cream with chili toppings. It sounds really nice. And after all of that, I think we should finish this video with a mood booster post. So let's go ahead and do that. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Jack's Magic Man. My 8-year-old daughter just malicious complied me. I am tired of seeing her clothes all over her floor when she has a laundry basket right there in her room. So I went off on her and told her to get all her dirty clothes off the floor and into the laundry room. I go about doing some other things and I come back and there are still some towels and socks on the floor. So I tell her to get those too, and she says, "I didn't know you meant towels." And I say, "Get everything that is washable off your floor and into the laundry room." I come back up 20 minutes later and every stuffed animal and sheet along with the towels are in the laundry room now, because in her words, "You said everything washable." OP's edit. I want to point out that while this is malicious compliance, she did it with a smile and there was no yelling or anything. It was a moment of, "You got me" from me, and she knew exactly what she was doing and gave me a smile and took the stuffies out without much asking. It was all in good fun on her part. She did get you, OP. Kid logic is awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Now, today's first story is one that we have covered in the past. I didn't cover it for a little while because there was more updates, and now apparently it's been concluded. So if you do want to skip parts of the story, feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. And this story is from Scared Weakness 6250 from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, saying, "Am I the arsehole for jumping out of the way when my niece and nephew tried to push me into a pool, resulting in them falling in? Happened today. My folks decided to host a barbecue because I guess that's what older people do. I declined because I really don't like my two sisters, their husbands or their kids. Wife and I are child free. Mum then pressured the wife. Long story short, we went. By the time we arrived there, were about 20 people there. My sister and their husbands were already solidly buzzed. Drunk really. My mum was spending 100% of her time trying to keep the nieces and nephews, ages 7 to 11, more or less under control. My dad had strategically retreated to the whirlpool part of the pool with a small cooler full of beers. Wife and I made small talk with miscellaneous people, ate food and had a frozen margarita. Sisters, brother-in-laws took turns criticizing us for being late, not being in our swimsuits and screwing up the vibe. Whatever. Typical suburban summer get-together. About 45 minutes in, two of the kids ran at one of the neighbor guests who was standing next to the pool and pushed her in. She was at the pool steps, stumbled in but didn't fall, so only got half wet. She was clearly very unhappy about it, but she didn't make a scene. Just went over to where the parents were, grabbed their towels, dried herself off, and left. Sisters and brother-in-laws thought it was all great fun. A bit later, I was standing a few feet away from the pool, chatting away with someone. I saw 3 of the kids running full tilt at me from the corner of my eye. Obviously, I was next. Not that it's terribly difficult to outwit young kids, but I just jumped out of their way at the last second. All 3 of them ran straight into the pool at full speed. Most of the other guests, including my wife and me, started laughing, but their mums, who as I mentioned were pretty shit-faced, absolutely freaked out. Apparently 2 of the kids couldn't swim, even though they were in swimsuits. Since I wasn't in swim gear, I stepped back from the pool and let other people fish the kids out. The kids were bawling their heads off like they'd lost a limb. At that point, all hell broke loose. The 4 drunk parents were yelling at everyone in general, and me in particular, for nearly letting their kids drown, and also because 2 of the kids had been videoing the trick using their parents' iPhones, which were now at the bottom of the pool. One of my brother-in-laws got into the pool to try and retrieve the phones, but his BMI and BAC made that impossible. No one else volunteered to help. Unsurprising given that my sisters were still bitching at everyone. I told my sisters it was their job to watch their kids, and that if anything had happened to them, it would have been their responsibility, not mine. There were some pretty strong words on both sides. Wife and I left after the other brother-in-law fell over and face planted while yelling at us. Now they're saying I should have let the little shits knock me into the pool and have their fun, and ruin my phone. So, am I the arsehole? Side note, Dad of course never got out of the whirlpool. Just got this mental image of the dad just like sat across the other side of the garden, you know, in the whirlpool with his pack of beers next to him, just think, I don't want none of this shit. And I remember the first time we covered this and just thinking about, you know, consequences have actions, and that's all we're seeing here. And whenever we cover like stories with children and their behavior and what their parents allow, etc., etc., I always find it worrying for their future. You know, it might be totally out there kind of comment, but, and I know in the kids' minds they were just having fun, but for the parents to think that's acceptable to be pushing random people into a pool, you know, fully dressed with their phones on them, etc., etc., and then laughing about it afterwards, I'm just like, oh, dearie me. I can never imagine any of my nieces or nephews doing anything of the sort. Perhaps when you're on holiday and things and you're in a swimsuit and they walk past you and they give you a quick nudge into the pool, that kind of thing. But reading about that situation made me feel really awkward, especially for that neighbor who was pushed in, and that they must have felt like, oh God. Anyway, there were some thoughts from Opie on this, who says, I realize they're just kids and they were having fun. The fact that they thought this was okay is more of a reflection on their parents than them. Just wish we hadn't gone. It's nice to see my folks and their neighbors, but I really don't like my sisters or their husbands. They don't hide their envy of us, and they're just exhausting to be around. And then there's some more information why Opie doesn't care for some of his family. Opie says it's more of an oil and water sort of thing. I've never been close to my sisters. They're 8 and 10 years older than me. I don't have much in common with their husbands. They're okay guys, but I just don't give a crap about the things that are important to them and vice versa. I do know that the 4 of them are somewhat envious of our lifestyle. Both the sisters are stay-at-home mums. Both the husbands make good money. One makes noticeably more than I do, but both my wife and I have professional careers. We don't have kids, and we are way more responsible with money. As a result, we have a lot more investments, etc., and we don't have to drive cars full of kids' debris, and we take nice trips once or twice a year. It definitely grates on both sisters and by extension, their husbands. So we get some petty behavior from them on an ongoing basis. Overall, neither my wife nor I enjoy their company, which is why I wanted to skip the get-together. Just not worth it to me. But my wife is a positive person and is usually happy to see them. Someone mentions to OP that hopefully like next time your wife won't feel guilted into going, and OP says, that's probably the one positive thing that will come out of this. Wife is much more tolerant and forgiving than I am towards my siblings, but based on what she's saying on the way home, I think she's had it with them as well. Someone says, your dad sounds awesome. OP says, yeah, my dad's very chill. He loves being around groups of people. Used to be in sales, likes people to enjoy themselves, and is definitely enjoying life as a retiree. He and 2 other guys with him just sat there and watched the show. Mum's cool too, but the situation upset her. Someone asks if the kids were okay, and Opie says the kids are fine. By the time I left, they're inside watching TV. I think they're 7, 9, 10, and 10, and 11. It was the middle three who played kamikaze with me. I'm guessing the 11-year-old egged them on. She's usually the ringleader. Someone says you phrased the part about your parents hosting a barbecue oddly. Opie says I had to shorten the post to fit the character limit. My folks are gregarious and like to have people over. They have the classic great for entertaining house and are always coming up with a reason to get together. They'd wanted everyone to be at their place for the 4th of July, but one of my sisters and her family were on vacation, so this was a fake 4th of July party complete with flags, red, white and blue decorations, barbecue, a margarita machine, etc. Sparklers were promised to the kids. My nieces and nephews were the only kids there. All of the neighbors are older like my parents. So a month later, Opie comes in with their first update and says, first off, my folks tell me that my nieces and nephews are all good swimmers and that they use the pool all the time. The 7-year-old is still a beginner but loves the water. My sister just said they couldn't swim so I'd look bad. To be fair, none of the kids are allowed in the deep end, which is where they fell in. It was the 2 10-year-olds and the 9-year-old who tried to push me into the pool. After we left, the party ended on a pretty sour note. My drunk brother-in-law who face-planted while yelling at me had to go to an urgent care place to get his face stitched up. He was too toasted to drive, so Dad took him. Dad was not very happy about this. Late that evening, my sister started a group text and said some really nasty crap. The husbands threw in a few comments as well. Wife and I blocked the 4 of them. My mum called me. She was pretty upset about what they said. She and Dad were in the chat, and I don't blame her. Because of the text, my folks insisted my sisters and brother-in-laws come over the next day, Sunday, without their kids to get something straight and lay down some ground rules. Mum's wording. The result was a contrite, if unenthusiastic apology from the siblings via my mum's phone. I'm glad my wife was with me when they called. The hard stares kept me from saying what I wanted to. I just told them thanks and that we felt no need to discuss it further. Since I thought things were settled, I unblocked them. That evening, I got a text from one of the brother-in-laws telling me the phone's cost is XXXX amount and asking when I'd be paying for them. What the fuck? I replied, never. Took a screenshot of his text and forwarded it to my folks with a note that we're done with this nonsense. We're going no contact with sisters and spouses and not to invite us to any more holidays or get-togethers if they'll be present. Then I blocked the sisters and their spouses again. At that point, the shit really hit the fan. Dad called them and ripped them a new one. Among other things, he told them the grandkids were not welcome at his place indefinitely. Since my mum regularly provides free babysitting, that got them pretty rattled. He also banned them from using the vacation house and told them my wife and I actually own it, not he and mum. This completely freaked them out. Both of my sisters and families used the place a lot, including having their friends up for weekend getaways. This was very much out of character for my folks. They'd clearly had it, and for reference, I never wanted my sister to know we owned the place. We bought it for my folks. They'd always wanted a place in the mountains. Keeping the ownership quiet was just a way to avoid drama with my siblings. A couple of days later, my sisters and their husbands came to our place unannounced to apologize in person. We were out to dinner and they left a note. One sister also called me at work too. I sent her to voicemail. We've decided being no contact is the best thing for the indefinite future and haven't interacted with them for the last 3+ weeks. Personally, I'm done. They can go pound sand. On the back of that post, someone asked OP, how has life been? OP says, it's been less than a month, but I have to say that blocking them has actually made our lives noticeably more peaceful. I hadn't realized how much ongoing low-level drama they create. It's not toxic, they're not bad people, they're just tiresome and petty. And I personally don't care about them using the weekend place. It's ours technically, but we bought it for my folks. They control it and decide who uses it when they aren't. We pay for all the operating costs and taxes. One good thing about this blow-up is that we now know what we'll be doing with the property when my folks get older. I was prepared to take over managing it, allocating weekends, maintaining it, and such, but now we know we'll just sell it, and if we want to go to the mountains, we'll just rent an Airbnb. Someone talks about OP's parents and then says, yeah, my folks aren't dumb. They're pretty laid back though, very much a live and let live. I figure they'll ease up on all of this soon, but that's their decision. We still won't be attending any family events for the foreseeable future. What sucks for my sisters is that they are probably very worried that I keep them from using the cabin. I won't. That's up to mum and dad until they are older. And it puts an end to one of the sisters' fantasies of building a compound of houses when we inherit the property, which I've known about for some time and had just ignored. Normally the lots up there only have one area that can be built on, but this piece of property is way larger because it's at the end of a road. At least 3 houses with great views could be placed on that land. Someone says to OP they're not genuinely sorry, they just want things from you. And OP says I agree completely. Their apologies aren't sincere and I have no plans to interact with them anytime soon. OP says regarding them using a vacation home, that's really my parents' decision. Yes, technically I own it and cover all the expenses, but I bought it for them and they have day-to-day control over it. They're good people and they always wanted a getaway place for the family, but there's no way they could have ever bought it themselves. I could afford to buy it for them because I've been fortunate financially. Save and invest like a demon, plus I got a massive bonus the same year I sold my home and moved in with my now wife. I don't care if my folks let my siblings use the house, but I will admit I'm enjoying my sister's discomfort over finding out that I can afford to buy the place and let my folks use it while never mentioning it to them. Dad changed our lot code when they went up last week, so now only he, mum, my wife and I have it. With regards to my mum babysitting the kids, she tells me that once a week she and sometimes dad have been going over to each sister's place and spending the day with the kids. When school starts, she's going to pick each set up from school once a week on separate days and take them home and spend the evening with them. She says the 5 of them together stress her out, but separately, they are fine. Mum and dad have both told me they don't plan on having my sisters and their families back to their place in the foreseeable future, and that they're enjoying the quiet. My guess is they're already tired of the old dynamic and use the pool party nonsense as an excuse to make some changes to the relationships. Then 9 days after that post, OP updates their update and says, well, it's been an interesting last few days. I thought shit had hit the fan before, but it was more of a fart compared to what happened this week. Oh, I'm such a child. For this to make sense, I need to provide some financial context. My folks haven't ever been good at saving money. I've been doing their taxes for years, so I know pretty much everything about them money-wise. The house is paid for and they have minimal debt, but they didn't save much for retirement. Both of them get Social Security. Dad gets a solid pension, and they have a bit of savings, but there's no treasure chest in the basement. I bought their current car for them after they retired, a retirement present so they could have something nice to drive. It was the first car in probably 20 years. They didn't lease. My sisters are convinced the folks are dripping with money and that our parents will be leaving the 2 of them with everything since I don't need more money, so they never cared about saving either. Turns out my older sister and her husband, they have 3 kids, have been living beyond their means for some time and are in financial straits. They've maxed out their credit cards and are behind on their car leases to the point that one is about to get repossessed. He bragged in the past about making X per year, but it turns out to be about half that. She confessed all this to mum on Tuesday because they need a loan and because, and this was a what the fuck moment for mum and dad, that for the last 3 years, instead of staying at the vacation house regularly, she's actually been renting it out once a month or so and pocketing the cash. We're talking $2,000 plus for a weekend and at least $4,000 for a week. With her being cut off from using the place, she's had to cancel one group already. She's now worried they'll lose everything. My folks aren't in any position to give them a loan. My other sister was aware of her renting out the place, but of course hasn't ever said anything. I suspect she's done the same thing as well, because I went up there once to drop off an ATV I had worked on, and there was a family there who claimed to be staying there with my sister, her family, and they'd gone to town for something. At the time I let it go. I figured she loaned out the house to some friends, but I've always wondered. I found all this out through my folks, who are pretty stressed out about it. Mum more than dad. He's mainly just pissed off about it all. I know dad feels betrayed, and I imagine he's embarrassed that he's in no position to help his daughter out. He did reiterate that as long as it's up to him, the girls won't be using the vacation home anytime soon. My folks let me know what's going on because they figured my sisters would pull a full court press on me next, and they were right. On Thursday, my sisters came to our place again, without husbands this time, and waited outside the door until I got home. I had to choose between fighting with them in public, them making a scene if I went in without them, or letting them in, so I let them in. I got a bullshit story from older sister with a younger one backing her up, regarding why I needed to let them use the mountain place again immediately. They also said I've been a shitty brother and that I needed to step up and plan on paying for their kids' college tuitions since that's what family does. I let them pitch their story and called him out based on what my folks had told me. Things went to shit from there. There was denial, crying, cursing, yelling, you name it. I swear my ears are still ringing 2 days later. Won't lie, I said some really mean and shitty things to them, but nothing that wasn't true. They finally left after about an hour. After that, I took a shower and lay down. When I got up, my wife was home and her first words were that she had to block more phone numbers because my sisters were blowing up our phones from new ones. Folks messaged me yesterday asking me to call. I'm sure my sisters have told them some bullshit version of what happened, but I'm not up to rehashing it yet. I'm usually a pretty energetic person, but this drama has me beaten down. I had just enough energy today to drive up to the vacation house and padlock the entrance gate shut. I'm the one with a key. I'm guessing that will be enough to ensure my siblings leave the place alone. They'd probably die trying to walk 400 yards uphill to get to the house. 2.5 weeks from that last update, a new one comes in and says September 12, 2023. Yet another update regarding the clusterfuck that is my extended family. Thought it might be time given what's gone on over the past 2 weeks. After my sisters came to my place, my mum and dad told me they were done with managing the vacation home. Sounded like the sisters had been pressuring them to let them use the place again. Basically, my folks handed the responsibility for the place over to me and told me it was my problem from here on out. Up until then, they'd kept track of who would be using it when they're taking care of routine maintenance, replacing worn out items, etc. In any case, they decided they didn't want to be in the middle of all this crap. While I don't blame them, I'm disappointed because the damn place was supposed to be something for them to enjoy and hang out in, and they use it regularly. Plus, I've never cared that they let my sisters and their families use it, because really, I've always thought that was my parents' call, even though I technically own it. But now my folks are going to be in the position of not having access without me being involved, and that changes the whole dynamic of the place. I've taken several steps to secure the place. I already mentioned that I locked the gate. It has a heavy-duty chain and the best lock I could find. I also did a full reset on all the door keypads and created all new codes. Security cameras got installed yesterday, which is actually pretty cool because the installer convinced me to put a high-res one that looks over the valley. The system cost me way more than I thought it would, but the peace of mind is worth it. The installer also put up signs on the property saying the place was monitored by video. I also installed a heavy-duty lockout for the water shut-off and drain valve. I hope to hell I don't lose the keys for it, because if I do, it's going to be a bear to try to remove. I haven't told anyone but my wife that the water is locked off, and again, only we have the keys. Last week I got a separate call at my office from both of the husbands trying to convince me to let them use the house, like they always have. The older one had gone up with some friends for a guys hangout but couldn't get in because of the gate lock. He was pretty pissed and embarrassed about being locked out. I'm sure he would have broken the lock off if he could have. During his call, he kept bouncing between pushy and victimhood. At one point, he threatened to rip that gate out of the goddamn ground. He also admitted they'd been renting it out to a few friends, that they needed the money, and I was ruining their business, and that I should refund their guests money. Me? Fuck that. I should have recorded the conversation with him, but I don't know how to do that from an office phone anyway. The other brother-in-law just sounded like he was being made to call by my sister. He didn't really put up a fight when I told him not to plan on ever using the place again. In any case, I told him they can't use the place and not to ask again. At this point, I'm considering selling the vacation home. Wife and I won't use it enough to justify keeping it, and it's not like there's going to be any family get-togethers there anytime soon. I mentioned selling it to my folks. Their response was pretty much whatever. I'd more than double my money by selling it. The place consists of 3 lots with killer views, and it's at the end of a private road. But I'll probably wait for a while to sell. Doing so now would be an emotional decision. My sisters and I aren't currently speaking, and I have no plans to initiate contact. I don't know what the status between them and my folks is, and I don't want to. On the upside, we spent an evening with my folks last week. Went to a new restaurant that was nice. No one brought up any of this crap. Mum did update us on the nieces and nephews. She's spending time with them at their homes. Sorry this update isn't full of laughs or owns. That's just life sometimes. And there is more to this story, but I just have to butt in because I always find like the entitlement absolutely insane. Like bringing us back to the old days of entitled people, like renting out someone's house and claiming that's your business and, you know, you're going to rip the gate out and all this kind of shit. But we've seen this kind of entitlement time and time again, and it still keeps popping up. There is some wild ass people out there. And of course, people were asking OP questions. Someone says, you know, they seem massively entitled. Couldn't you just rent it out yourself or sue them for the profits? And OP responds to that and says, I agree that my sisters and their families are very entitled. They're also in an extremely weak position in all of this. The place is a bit remote to rent as a long-term home. Plus, there are times during the winter the road is impassable, so staying there year-round is pretty iffy. There are a couple of permanent residents on the road who are at a lower elevation and relatively close to the year-round public road. Even they have to hunker down or bug out a few times each winter. Regarding making it a vacation rental, doing so would be seen by my sisters as rubbing salt in the wound and would give them a reason to create more drama. And honestly, we don't need the money. The place is paid for, it's in great shape, it doesn't cost much to keep the lights on, etc. I did think about lawyering up and covering them with paper. It wouldn't even cost me much. A good friend is a property law attorney. But again, doing so would escalate things and give them a reason to create family drama. My primary goal at this point is to minimize my involvement with them and minimize any nonsense that causes my parents stress. I'm willing to take some short-term flack and absorb some expenses like the camera system to keep things contained. It could blow up again, but I suppose I'll drive off that bridge when I come to it. I don't think we'll sell right away, if at all. It's more of a last resort or personal fantasy thought than anything else. There's a good chance that come holiday season, my folks will reset and want to have the entire family there. Which is fine. We won't be going, of course, but I don't care if my parents have guests there. I intend to keep control of the place for the indefinite future though, which will be inconvenient at times because I'll be the only person with a gate key, but I can live with that. And quickly on the back of that comment, where OP says, you know, they don't mind the parents having guests there, my initial worry as I was reading that is like, if the sisters and the brother-in-laws turn up and they're using your place as well, there is the potential of them to damage your property in, you know, little secret ways. I don't know, scratch the floor or, you know, mark the walls or whatever. I know that sort of stuff can be repaired, but it's still a pain in the ass for you, right? Especially when you're giving it to them for free. It just seems like they might be the kind of people to do this. Someone says to OP, the audacity. OP says, yeah, a renting thing. I just don't have words. One of the harsh but true things I told my sisters was that they had risked my property and stolen from me, and that made them no better than common thieves. Their response was that our parents hadn't told them they couldn't, so it was okay. I just can't think that way. Don't know about the spine, but thanks. I think it's more that I just don't care that much for them, and because of all this nonsense, I'm now having trouble caring if they live or die. That might be unhealthy of me, but I'm comfortable with my feelings. I agree about the arm's length thing too. We're staying in no contact with them or for the indefinite future. Someone says to OP, this is the calm before the storm. They try to guilt you again. OP says quite possibly. I know one thing for certain. I'll burn that place to the ground before my sisters ever rents it out again. Financially, I'm pretty certain my oldest sister, who was renting out the place regularly, is screwed. I know they're trying to take out a second mortgage, but unless they can contain their spending, that will be a stopgap at best. I admit I didn't realize until recently how much they and the other sister and brother-in-law resented me over my financial situation. But I figured out it's pretty intense. Honestly, I thought both families were doing well. They drive new cars, have nice houses, everybody has all kinds of electronic gadgets, etc. But all that was smoke and mirrors, at least for the oldest sister. I'm finding it impossible to give a shit though. I should probably be more empathetic about all this, but the truth is I really don't care much about my sisters and their families. I don't feel any real bond to them. Certainly nothing like I have with my folks or my in-laws. Heck, I'm way closer to my wife's siblings than mine. In any case, I don't care how my sisters live, so as long as it doesn't involve me. Someone says to OP, why not just sell it? OP says my parents, dad in particular, love the area the house is in, and it's close enough that they can drive there with minimal effort. I think they prefer I not sell it so they can continue to use it, which is fine with me. And they like getting everyone together, so my sisters and their families will end up there. And really that's fine too. We're not going to be there, I hope they have a great time. But as to my sisters using the house again without my parents being there, never again. Someone says, what about moving forward? Opie says yes, this will probably be a long-term issue for my siblings. They can't harass me if we never speak again. All they can do is make my folks upset. My parents are capable of dealing with that themselves. Eventually, everyone will get used to the new reality of the house not being available. I'm going to find a property manager in the area who can unlock the main gate for me and do other routine stuff so I don't have to go up there when my folks want to use it. That will cost me less than the place being used by my sisters 3 out of 4 weekends. I pay all the bills, and the place will stay secure. And also yes, my older sister can get a job or they can cut back on their lifestyle. They probably won't do so until some massive reality check like getting their Suburban repossessed, but that's their problem. We won't be helping them. My folks can't realistically do so. I'm having a hard time pretending to care one way or the other. Like John Wayne said, life is hard, it's harder when you are stupid. So around a month later after that update, we get a new one, which says a couple of people have asked for an update and here you go. I hired a guy to manage and look over the vacation home. He lives in the area, takes care of his folks and manages a good number of properties. Some are vacation rentals, some are weekend places like ours. He has access to my camera feeds and does a physical check on my place every week or two. I think he may have the best job in the mountains. He gets paid to drive around with his dog, walk around the properties and hangs out on people's decks whenever he feels like it. He also has a camera feed from a house near the start of the private road that takes still shots whenever a vehicle goes past it. $450 per month, plus he'll do basic maintenance and repairs on an hourly basis. He's friends with all the sheriff's deputies too. Got a lot of peace of mind from doing this. He sends photos from his walks to everyone once or twice a week. I have to brag a bit on my parents. I got all this from them tonight at dinner. They were getting pressure from my sisters to demand that I open up the vacation house to everyone for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving up there had become quite the tradition for the family. Not for me and my wife. We've gone once in 7 years. My dad refused to bother me about it because he knew I'd say no. They came up with what I think is a great plan. Announced that they were organizing the Thanksgiving gathering and if everyone splits the cost in advance, they'd rent an Airbnb in the mountains. Otherwise, they'd host Thanksgiving at their place or one of the sisters could host it. This caused a fight between the sisters because the middle sister was all for doing the Airbnb. The oldest one doesn't have any money. The deadline to commit to an Airbnb has passed. Looks like Thanksgiving will be at my parents' place. Regardless, we won't be there. My parents have asked that we not sell the place for now. They decided they'd still like to use it occasionally, but not until my sisters have come to terms with the new normal. And of course, they'd probably like it if everyone could get together again down the road. But that's not going to happen. I'd just as soon as sell it and move on at this point, but I can live with keeping it if my folks do use it now and again. Plus, it'll be worth even more down the road. Wife and I have stayed in no contact with my sisters and their husbands. Both sisters have called from new numbers, FU Google Voice, and left messages insisting that I meet with them for our parents' sake, to work out how everyone can use the family vacation home. They called my wife too. I'm glad I was already in the habit of not answering calls if I don't recognize the number. I honestly don't know if they're delusional or if they think they can bully me into giving them access again. Don't really care. My parents tell me that the oldest sister and her husband are getting out of their leases for their SUV and big ass truck and are selling their jet skis and some other shit they've never needed. That's going to be really hard on her. She's quite the braggart and won't like being seen in something older, smaller or cheaper. My brother-in-law's identity is very much wrapped up in his truck as well. He even has a small tattoo of the truck company's logo, which frankly is one of the many reasons why he and I never hung out. Several people have suggested I make the vacation home into an Airbnb. I don't plan to do so, at least anytime soon. I know it would make money, but it would cause an incredible amount of drama across the family and would stress out my parents. They don't need that. It would also be a hassle to remove personal things my folks have there. That stuff has nowhere to go, and there would be wear and tear on the place. And I'm sure it would take some time on my part, even though I'd use a manager to do it. Just not worth it to me. Next updates. Wrote most of this yesterday, but decided to wait to post it until I wasn't so wound up. Waiting didn't work. I'm still wound up. Sorry if this rambles, so much has happened, hard to write coherently. Things have gone to hell. I really truly did not think anything like this would happen. Short version, my brother-in-law broke into my vacation home and were arrested. They've been charged with breaking and entering, destruction of property, and communicating threats. all Class 1 misdemeanors. I've refused to drop the charges. I might do so if I'm fully paid for the damage they caused. They were still in jail as of Saturday evening. I assume they're out by now. Things had settled down, at least I thought so. Haven't seen or heard from my sisters in over 6 weeks. My parents went up to their house for a week and had a good time. David, the property manager I hired, has worked out great. He's done a couple of repairs I asked him to do, and I've given him a list that he's going to work on. He usually sends a photo or two of wildlife or a sunset to his clients every week. It was kind of making me want to get up there. Friday, after Thanksgiving, my brother-in-laws went to my vacation home. They used an angle grinder to cut through the chain on the driveway and damage the gate in the process. They tried to get in through the front door, ruined the lock set, and gouged the door badly. They finally got in through the utility floor door and a locked internal door. They also broke into the barn. I'm not sure why. When they went out through the front door, they were met by sheriff's deputies and David. David gets notifications from the camera system when there's activity. He saw what was going on and called the sheriff's department. According to David, the brother-in-laws tried to bullshit their way out of it, but the deputies didn't buy it. Breaking into an empty house is a pretty serious thing up here. Usually it's meth heads who ransack the place and hawk everything. When the brother-in-laws were arrested, they freaked out big time. People saying how they were going to beat the hell out of me, etc. Not smart to do in front of the cops. David and the sheriff's office tried calling my wife and me to see what we wanted to do, but we were spending the day with their parents and had left our phones in the car so we could be in vacation mode. So they booked the brother-in-laws on everything, which is what I would have asked them to do anyway. Brother-in-law called their wife from jail, who of course freaked out. They called my folks, tried to call me, they're blocked. Tried to find a lawyer up there to arrange bail. Not easy to do given that it's a rural area and was a holiday weekend. Older sister has zero cash and her cards are maxed, so if they made bail, my middle sister would have to pay for both husbands. I know they were in jail as of Saturday afternoon. We didn't check our phones until late Friday on our way home from the in-laws. There are a ton of calls and messages from my mum, dad, David, and the sheriff's department. Talk about ruining a great day. I was in such a good mood till I looked at my phone. My wife read through the texts and listened to the messages. Read them out to me, and by the time we got home, I had some idea of what was going on. I put my brain back into thinking mode, tried to get past my anger, failed. Called David and got the rundown on what happened and how bad the damage was, resulting in more anger. I ended Friday by calling the sheriff's department and telling them there was no misunderstanding. The brother-in-laws had absolutely no right to be on my property, and I wanted to press charges. I didn't call my folks back, barely slept. I waited until Saturday afternoon to call my folks. They were both pretty rattled about it all. My mum in particular. My sisters had browbeat them into telling me that I should tell the cops it was all a mistake and that I wanted the charges dropped. I refused flat out, told them there was no way I'd do that until I spoke with an attorney, and also not until I was paid in full for whatever it will cost to fix everything 100%. My mum was crying hard by the time we got off the phone, which of course made me feel like shit. My dad suggested it was time for a complete start over, but also said he thought they needed to pay for the damage. I haven't gone up to the property yet. There's nothing I can do, and I'll probably go nuts when I see the damage in person. The photos are bad enough. I'm hoping that tomorrow or Wednesday, but my job isn't one I can just wander off from for non-emergencies. I've left messages with 2 attorney friends asking them to recommend the right lawyers to go to after my sisters and brother-in-laws. I don't know what I can do exactly, but I'm hoping to get restraining orders. I have all the texts they've sent me that might help. I'm strongly considering suing them for the money they made renting the place. I don't care about the cash, but it will help make them as miserable as possible. The gloves are definitely off at this point. A couple of side notes. Brother-in-laws had no idea I'd hired someone to keep an eye on things, or that there are cameras there now. My parents knew, but hadn't told them because they knew it would just give my sisters a reason to drama up. There are signs on the property stating it's being monitored with cameras, and no trespassing signs though. My wife has completely had it at this point. I don't blame her, she's been more than patient about it all, but reached her limit and was not shy about letting me know. She told me it's up to me how I deal with this, but that she thought they all needed to be taught a hard lesson. Older brother-in-law likely won't face any repercussions at his job over this, but middle brother-in-law has a security clearance, so he might. I'm hoping that it will be motivation for middle brother-in-law to pay for the damages himself immediately. David, The caretaker has an interesting background. I knew he was friends with some of the deputies. Figured it was because they were all locals. I was wrong. He was a cop in a big city for years. Was shot on duty and afterwards decided to quit and moved to where his parents had retired. He has some PTSD over it all. His dog is a certified service animal and is usually with him. I know law enforcement people tend to hang together. I guess that's how they became his friend group. I don't want to see or speak with these a-holes for the rest of my life. I know this is in direct conflict with my overwhelming urge to make their lives as miserable as possible. And then there was a relevant comment on this one that said, a lot of people have said I should have been hard-ass about all this from day one. I've avoided it because it would have stressed out my parents, and I hate this kind of drama, but F it. They're stressed out now. My wife has pretty much opted out of any more to do with this. Doesn't want to hear about it for a while and says it's in my lap. She leads off on that, but I'm guessing she's not going to get involved from now on other than listen to me blow off steam. Edit. Regarding why they broke in. Conjecture on my part, but I think they were planning on using it for family getaways and or renting it out again. According to David, the property manager, it's deer season through the end of the year. I know the brother-in-laws have used it in the past as base camp for big group hunting weeks. It sleeps quite a few people, so one event with friends could net them thousands of dollars. Again, I'm guessing here, but that would explain why they broke into the barn as well. I bought a 6-seater mule a few years back, but they would want to use that. I don't think they wanted to trash the place. It means too much to my dad, and they both like him a lot. Opie then updates 5 days later. It says, December 2nd, 2023, Saturday. Didn't think I'd be doing another post this soon, but a lot has happened over the past 2 days. Short version, I think the corner has turned on this crap. Thursday afternoon, I get a courier delivered envelope at my office. It was a signed letter from both my brother-in-laws and a cashier's check for $5,000. In the letter, they made what I have to say was a really sincere apology. Among other things, they acknowledged breaking in, acknowledged it was wrong, said the $5,000 was to pay for the damage and they'd pay more if the cost was more than that. Also said they'd stay away from the vacation home unless my wife and I specifically invited them. They also asked that I do what I could to get the charges dropped as soon as possible because they both could lose their jobs, and that they'd agree to a restraining order or whatever else it took for that to happen. There was more as well. All conciliatory, but that's the gist of it. To say this was a shock is an understatement. It was, obviously, a total 180 from their past behavior. I'd already made an appointment with an attorney to see about suing my brother-in-laws over the damage and to try to get a restraining order. I called him and told him what I'd just received, and he agreed to meet with me at the end of the day instead of next week. Told me not to deposit the check. We met for about 2 hours. He ended up recommending the wife and I do a settlement and mutual release agreement with all 4 of them, sisters and brother-in-laws. He said if we went after them via a lawsuit that would almost certainly win, but that it could take 2 years or more. There would be sizable upfront legal fees, and that we might never see any money. He also said we could keep the $5,000 free and clear even if we didn't let them off the hook. He's drawing up the agreement. It won't be ready until Monday. The agreement will include what's essentially the civil equivalent of a restraining order. I already asked my property manager to work up a bid to get the damage repaired. I called him after the meeting and asked that he get me close an estimate as possible, ASAP. Got that Friday. He thinks it will take around $4,000 to fix everything. Most of that is for the front door. On Friday, my attorney contacted each of the brother-in-laws, told them what we were proposing and advised them to get their own lawyers. They both agreed to it. The middle brother-in-law told him they could afford to either pay for the damages or pay for a lawyer, but not both. And they figured a lawyer wouldn't make any difference given that they really had no defense for what they did. His biggest concern was if the charges could be dropped. From what I can tell, they're willing to do anything or sign anything to make this all go away. My attorney also called the DA's office on Friday to discuss dismissing the charges. Got the name of the prosecutor and left them a message, but has not spoken to them yet. He thinks they dismissed the charges because the brother-in-laws are paying up and they have no priors, but then again, he's not a criminal lawyer. Also said I should be prepared to drive up there Monday or Tuesday and tell the prosecutor in person that I want everything dismissed. He's also advised me to continue to be in no contact with sisters and brother-in-laws especially for the next 6 months, and that it will be really important to follow the terms of agreement when it comes to future interactions with them. I'm guessing that the brother-in-law's change of heart is due to them having to figure out what's at stake for them, what it's going to cost them in legal fees and fines and so on. There's also the highly unlikely possibility that they could go to jail for up to 120 days. And as I've mentioned, one of them has a security clearance for his job that could be at risk. So there is the Hail Mary pass to keep their normal lives. This isn't a perfect resolution to the situation, but at least it will get me past the legal and financial parts of the shit show that I've been in for the past few months. I doubt I'll ever have a civil relationship with any of them ever again, and that's fine. What I want most at this point is to close this off, get on with my life and never speak to any of them again. I'm exhausted from this. Wife feels pretty much the same way. Kind of a side issue, but getting the written apology was weirdly a huge moment for me. I wasn't particularly expecting that ever, but apparently it matters to me quite a bit. The money doesn't feel particularly important at this moment. I'll damn sure take it though. Absolutely. Also, I'm pretty certain my middle sister and her husband came up with the money. The cashier's check is from the credit union of the company he works for. Once things are signed, I plan to make one more update. Probably just an edit to this post. I'm sorry for being so pedantic. Writing these posts has helped clear my head and the feedback has really helped. I truly appreciate everyone's comments, insights and support, and I really hope none of you ever have to go through this kind of nonsense. And the one relevant comment on this said, to be honest, when I finally got home Thursday night, I cried from relief thinking this might all be over. I'm not going to discuss the settlement with my folks until it's signed by everyone. My sisters and brother-in-laws can if they want, but I'm not. It's between me and them. And then what OP titles is the final update, which came 5 days later and says, Tuesday morning I met with my attorney and we went over the agreement. Changed a couple of minor things and he sent it to my sisters and brother-in-law. It included a requirement that they pay my attorney's fee, about $3,000. They weren't happy about that and tried to negotiate it away. But he told them they either accepted it as is or there would be no deal at all, and we proceeded with suing them for the money they got from renting out the place. Wear and tear from renting it, repair costs from their break-in, emotional distress, lost income from having to deal with this, attorney fees and whatever else we could. He also told them I would push hard with the DA's office to prosecute every charge. Short version, they came in and signed. I wasn't there. I'm told it was a pretty tense environment, that the middle brother-in-law appeared to have taken charge and that at one point he told both of my sisters to shut the hell up or he was walking away from the whole thing, making his own deal with us and the rest of them could all go to hell. They provided another cashier's check of $2,500, claims that's all they had. It's close enough that we're going to accept it as the final payment. Attorney also told me that everyone was very cold and curt towards one another, but that they all managed to keep it together long enough to sign and left without making too big of a scene. I drove up to the vacation house early yesterday to check out the damage and meet with the DA's office. Seeing the damage made my blood boil. It was so senseless. I was so pissed that I was ready to eat the cost of the repairs and do everything I could to ruin their lives. Tried walking it off, failed utterly. Ended up calling a good friend who was kind enough to stay on the phone for over an hour, letting me spew and vent. He eventually got me back to focusing on the bigger picture and putting this behind me and getting on with my life. Honestly, I'm still not sure that's what I want to do, but I settled down enough to get some food in me and I felt better. After lunch, I went to the DA's office. I hadn't made an appointment and had to wait a while, but got to meet with the assistant DA who's got the case. Short version is that since I don't want to prosecute and the brother-in-laws have already paid for the damages, that they are willing to drop all charges except trespassing, which in this case will be a class 2 misdemeanor. The brother-in-laws will have to plead guilty and pay whatever the fine the judge sets. I'm also told that if they fight the trespassing charge or ever so much as fart in public up there, that it would go very poorly for them. It helped that the brother-in-laws didn't resist arrest. If they had, none of the charges would have been dropped. I also went by the sheriff's office to thank them for getting there so quickly and everything. Wanted to thank the deputies personally, but only spoke to the dispatch person. And I tried to meet up with David, the property manager, but couldn't get a hold of him. A couple of notes. The agreement includes a no contact clause. Basically, if any of them show up where my wife and I are, or the other way around, whoever got there last has to leave immediately. No contact except through attorneys or other mutually agreed upon third parties. They get to keep whatever they made from renting the vacation house, my big give, unless I have tax consequences, which they will be responsible for, and we release each other from all other liabilities up through the present. There's more to it than that, but those are the high points. Wife and I will sign the agreement later today. After that, I can't talk about most of this, but I can talk around it. I think this is my final update regarding all this nonsense, but I'll respond to comments if I can. As I've said before, posting about all this and reading folks' thoughts and responses has been really helpful and has probably been key and able to handle this in a relatively healthy way. So thank you all again. And then there were some more relevant comments from the OP who said, I had a hard time not being vindictive, but right now I'm glad I wasn't. If they cause more drama down the road, I'll probably regret it, but if they follow the agreement, that won't happen. The family dynamics are, like you said, pretty much fucked. I've only told my parents that we're trying to work things out, nothing more. They may or may not be okay with the way things will be moving forward, but I had to do what was best for my wife and I. I'm guessing that my sisters have told them a very slanted version. That's one more turd I'll have to swim around. Really, the agreement is more of a formalization of how things have been for the last few months. I know it's not how my folks wanted things to go, but I'm pretty happy with it. Someone says, have your sisters ever shown this level of entitlement before? Opie says, not really. Not towards me anyway. We used to be okay. Never very close, but not enemies. Looking back, they started to resent me when I bought a loft when I was 25. At that point, neither of them owned a home, but both of them met their future husbands. They definitely didn't like that I got a place before they did. It got worse when I met my wife. They didn't like that she was part of a wealthy family, especially since I was doing pretty well by then myself. They accused me of being elitist and such. When we got married, I moved in with my wife. The condo was close to where she was doing her fellowship, and I sold the loft. Our wedding was fancy but reasonable, but the sisters were definitely envious about it. After that, they and their husbands got pretty petty, and we started minimalizing our involvement with them. The profit from selling the loft, being frugal, and not having a house payment are what enabled me to buy the vacation home for my parents. My folks were okay with hiding the fact that I owned it instead of them, because they knew my sisters would be bitchy about it, and say that I was using my wife's money. I didn't. Most of our finances are separate, though it definitely helped that I didn't have a house payment. Up until this crap started, I actually thought we were okay in the general sense. Our daily lives were and are very different, and I can't pretend I enjoy being around them for more than half a day, but I didn't think they hated me. I did know that both sisters had become pretty spoiled and entitled, but it wasn't my concern. I didn't have any real conflicts with my brother-in-law either. Just almost nothing in common with them. I guess that's a long-winded way of saying I didn't know they were all such arseholes. And OP's final thought on the matter that says, my small fantasy at this point is that I never hear from them again. And just think, this all started from some kids trying to push OP in the pool. And let's face it, it wasn't about that to begin with, it was about arseholes really. That was just what lit the fuse on this matter. I think there was always something down the road that was going to escalate, that was going to cause this level of entitlement, this behavior, and things to escalate to this point. And there's a part of me, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong in this matter, but as I was reading it, I was losing sort of sympathy for the parents through it. You know, OP was kind enough to get this holiday house that they can stay in whenever they want. You know, OP looked after it. They didn't have to do nothing. They just turned up to this place. And I commend them for looking after their parents. But at the point where they went, you know, we don't want to look after it no more. It's back onto you. You're dealing with it, etc. And although at points the parents did seem to act on the brother-in-laws and the sister's behavior in this, it didn't seem like they was doing very, very much in the background. It was still like they think that one day the family's all going to get back together and all this, when it clearly wasn't. It sounds like they knew about the dislike towards OP from the sisters in this, but it continued to happen. So, you know, I was losing sympathy through that. I'm not sure how you felt about that, but it certainly rubbed me the wrong way. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. Holy moly, what a roller coaster. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love. Whew, it's a long video. Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, this first story comes from Corgicino or Corgicino, whichever it is, and it's titled, My 26 female, estranged sister, 23 female, wants to talk to me months after almost ruining my wedding day. How should I respond? My sister, 23 female, and I, 26 female, have a complicated relationship. Our parents divorced when we were young, and we lived with our narcissistic mother until I left to stay with my dad at age 16, her staying with our mum, whom I'm now no contact with. We went through a lot together in childhood, and we're there for each other when our mum was abusive. However, as we grew up, we bickered like normal sisters do throughout our teenage years, except it would get intense at times, and we would yell at each other and get into some nasty fights. It goes without saying that we had trauma. And I was our mum's scapegoat while she was the golden child. In our adult life over the past 5 to 6 years, I've shown only compassion and kindness towards her, even when I wouldn't agree with a lot of her bad decision and lifestyle choices, and has done morally questionable things for money. Been arrested, had DUIs, is a dancer at a club, has OnlyFans, dates married, sugar daddies, etc. I can see that our childhood trauma had a negative impact on her, and she very clearly has mental illness, which I believe she's at least aware of. Our relationship hasn't been super close, as we are complete opposites, but in general it's been okay. I've always invited her to my boyfriend's family events, etc., but I've always walked on eggshells around her because that's how short-tempered and unstable she is. Fast forward to my wedding this April. She arrives very late, completely missing the ceremony, and almost misses photos. Seems out of it. My first instinct is she's already drunk or something, but I let it slide. I don't even show my frustration towards her. Later in the evening during the reception, someone lets me know that my now mother-in-law and other family members saw my sister snorting drugs or some other drug right next to the bar. Obviously embarrassed, I try not to let it bother me and continue on with my big day. Then, an hour or so later, I find out she's had a mental breakdown in the bathroom, and our other sister, half sister, has to take her home. Later that evening, once my now husband and I arrive at our cabin for the night, I see multiple texts from her consisting of very hateful, toxic things, such as I've always tried to look better than her ever since we were kids. I've always put her down, and she doesn't want to be in my life anymore because it feels wrong. It upset me deeply that night and never text her back. She texted me last night for the first time since April saying, "Can we talk soon? Hope you're doing okay." Truthfully, I don't know if I want to talk to her. I simply don't know what to say. I don't know if I want to reconnect with her. She's very toxic, and while I know she has mental illness and have felt bad for her over the past few years, I want to protect myself too. What would you do? Now, I found this one a bit of a weird one because I think what I would do and what I would advise to the OP in the situation are different. I'm always someone who's always curious about what the other person's going to say, even, if it ends up as, I still don't want nothing to do with you. I'm always kind of curious about what the person's going to say. It's always worrying in this particular case because, it didn't seem like she was going to apologize or she's apologetic or anything. You received this text that said, "Can we talk soon? Hope you're doing okay." You'd have thought it would have started off, "Look, I'm really sorry about the past. Can we talk soon? Hope you're doing okay. And I understand if you don't want to meet up, etc., etc." but it didn't start like that. So my thoughts, and it's the same thing I always think when I read stories like this, is what does this person bring into your life? You know, we know that she might be mentally unwell, which, you know, it might be a reason why she's being this way, but it certainly still doesn't excuse the behavior towards you as well. And just quite frankly, you don't have to accept that in your life. It's totally up to you. But Winter Travel says your sister's mental illness explains her toxicity, but it does not excuse it. You could answer her text with, "I'm well and I hope you are too. I'm not ready to talk. If that changes, I'll let you know. Please respect my boundaries." If she persists, remind her that she is crossing your boundary, and if it continues, you will no longer respond, period. Opie says, "Hi, thank you so much for your insight. I really like your short, simple message if I were to respond to her. I'm afraid to respond because when I have in similar situations in the past, she's been very defensive and hateful in response. This is why for the past few years I've walked on eggshells and have not voiced my opinions to her if they contradicted hers, or if I've been hurt by her and I have instead ignored her. I've been very careful around her to protect my peace, so to speak. Why couldn't she have started her text by apologizing and admitting her wrongdoings instead of just saying she wants to talk? Who knows if she's going to take accountability once I open that door of communication?" Blue says, "Do you see her as a positive in your life at all since being adults? You see her as pain and trauma, but you can't keep holding on to the little girl. Your sister is a grown woman who clearly doesn't have any positive feelings towards you. Maybe sober she realizes how badly she messed up. Good for her, but that isn't a get out of jail free card. Some posts have some great simple responses. You can give yourself more time away from her if that is what you need." Opie says, "Thank you so much for your insight. You make a lot of really good, relevant points. Honestly, I don't know what to make of her blaming some of her childhood trauma on me. The last time this happened before my wedding, which was during my birthday in January, she texted me saying, 'I didn't realize I have unresolved trauma from the way you treated me as kids,' in which I responded something like, 'We went through a lot together, and while I don't remember a lot of it, I was most likely projecting, and I'm sorry. I thought we had moved past it, and then the wedding thing happened, and I was at my wit's end of pain, and didn't reach out to her since.' And there's a comment below that which replies to OP's comment talking about how she's only doing it at special events, or seems to anyway. It reminded me of a story that we covered in the past where that exact same thing happened, always when the OP was having a special event that the sister would have some sort of issue going on, sometimes requiring a hospital treatment, etc. But Blue replied to OP and said, 'She pulled this on your birthday too. She seems to lash out on your special events. You described her as short-tempered and unstable at boyfriend's family events. I think these at least, she doesn't need to be invited anymore. Saying something like, you don't seem happy at these events, so I still love you, but I'm not going to be inviting you to them. You can still love her and encourage her to get some therapy, then figure out how much communication you want. Cutting off a family member is hard. I spent 30 years hoping someone would change, and she never did. The one time we did talk about it, it took 3 hours, and it boiled down to she didn't want to change. I feel sad that she is isolated, but honestly, things are more peaceful without her." The OP did update the post. They said, "Thank you to everyone who responded and provided valuable feedback. I truly appreciate it. I decided not to respond so I could think about it and allow myself to get back to her when I was ready. She sent the following text today after receiving no response." So the text messages started off from the sister saying, "Hey, can I talk to you soon? I hope you're doing okay." Then sometime later said again, "Never mind, it's cool. You're too busy living your perfect cookie cutter life that you work so hard to ditch your real roots. I'm not going to beg my blood sister to talk to me." OP responded to that and says, "And that there is why I didn't respond. I think it's best for both of us for the time being that we do not have a relationship. In recent years, all we seem to do is make each other unhappy unintentionally. If that changes, I'll let you know. Please respect my boundaries. Hope you are well and wish you all the best." OP then continues in their post and says, "Before I could send the response you see in the screenshot, she blocked me, so my message didn't go through. I suppose if she ever unblocks me, she will see it. I have blocked her as well. I was afraid that she hasn't changed and this would be how she acts. I'm relieved she has let herself out of my life. I've taken the necessary measures, including years of therapy, to better myself from our abusive childhood and broke the cycle. I hope eventually she can do the same." And then one comment with a reply from OP. So Galleon Raider says, the sister is toxic as hell and shows that she is jealous and will always take the first opportunity to attack OP. Being blood doesn't mean anything if that blood relative is a horrible person and unhealthy to have a relationship with. OP responded saying a commenter on my first post mentioned how she could possibly be envious of how my life has turned out compared to hers. However, she's had every same opportunity as me and has allowed herself to become this way. I refuse to let her drag me down with her. She mentioned to me once that she realizes she has some mental issues and suddenly feels really strong emotions. She's self-aware, so I just hope she eventually seeks the help she desperately needs. That's a real sad situation that it did turn out like that in the end. I mean, it's gotta hurt OP, you know, that is her sister, regardless of what's been going on between them, and they know the childhood trauma they have, but like we always say, it's not an excuse to be an arsehole to someone else. It may be a reason, of course, like some of them comments said, but it's not an excuse to be an arsehole. And in some, albeit, like I said, sad way, it's probably a good outcome for OP right now because they don't need that to be continuing on with their life to have this toxicity shoved towards them all the time. What do you guys make of this situation? How would you deal with it if it was you? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Puzzle-Headed Tie 5558 and says, I'm amazed by and also kind of afraid of my girlfriend. And it does come with an update as well. I've 28 male, been dating Jen, 27 female, for 2 years. And she's amazing. Kind, smart, funny, pretty, everything. She has a really warm and bubbly personality. Smiles and laughs a lot. I say she has RNF, resting nice face. She's also 5'5" of caged fury. Between her looks and approachable personality, she gets hit on by guys a lot. She also gets a lot of hate from women. I used to get really jealous when guys talk to her and she would get mad at me for being jealous. Let me be 100% clear. She's not particularly flirty. She doesn't initiate conversations, doesn't lead guys on. She's not looking for male attention. I'm 6'1" and somewhat intimidating build. So my go-to move is standing tall with my arms crossed and staring at the guy, then saying something like, "Is there an issue?" Instead of immediately jumping in when guys hit on her and causing an argument with her, I started to pay attention to how she handles unwanted attention. She's like a ninja deflecting creeps in Mean Girls. She reads a situation and knows when to act nice, when to ignore them, when to be firm, and when to leave. I started to realize I don't need to be jealous and she can take care of herself. I tore up my knee over the summer. She basically moved in to help me during my surgery and rehab. She's been amazing. Taking me to things when I couldn't drive, making me food when I couldn't even stand, helping me do my PT. I'm still wearing a knee brace, but I'm getting there. She loves to dance, although I'm terrible. I love going with her because it makes her happy and she looks incredible when she's dancing. Since my injury, we haven't gone out much and we haven't gone dancing. I'm not able to dance more than a slow dance, so I got her friends to go out with her so she has someone to dance with. Pretty sure she likes dancing with her female friends more anyway. It was me, Jen, a couple, and 2 girls. The couple left pretty early. Watching her dance, I had a moment of clarity. All I could think of is how lucky I was that I'd be going home with the person I most loved in the world. I realized I wanted to marry her. 3 attractive women dancing are going to draw attention. I'm no hater, but it was funny watching guys try to hit on them and glad that wasn't me anymore. This group of guys in particular weren't getting the hint. They surrounded the girls and tried to dance behind them. Jen said something and pushed them aside. The girls come back to where I was sitting and the guys are glaring at us. Club closes and we're walking out towards my car. Turns out the guys weren't ready to let it go. A couple of the guys were insulting us, especially me for being a beta, and I'm not a real man, real incel energy. The irony that they are the guys I should have been protecting my girlfriend from was totally lost on them. They're getting louder and more aggressive. We try to defuse the situation, but they're not letting up. A fight seemed inevitable. We're a block from the club, so I tell the girls we're going to head back to where the people waiting for Ubers are standing. They block our way and I'm about ready to get in their faces, hoping I can intimidate my way out while the girls get away. I had have one bad leg, and if someone shoves me, I'll probably fall down. Plus, there is only one of me. Jen suddenly releases a stream of insults and obscenities towards these guys and doesn't let up. I'm not sure she even stopped to take a breath. They were shocked, and so was I, by the genuine rage directed towards them. I've never seen her so angry. They're backing up while she's moving towards them screaming. She's driving them back towards the crowd while also creating a commotion. Told you, she's a ninja. Some clubgoer starts to come over and it's clear they aren't on the guy's side. The guys are embarrassed because they're getting upbraided by 120 pounds of white hot rage. This is the part where I should be embarrassed. My girlfriend, who is 8 inches shorter and 75 pounds lighter, kept me from getting my butt kicked. Honestly though, it was one of the most badass things I've ever seen. The LDR, the same woman that was the most gentle person when I couldn't walk, also stared down a group of creeps outside a club. She's a keeper. I better get a ring on this one before she realizes she can do better. Pop comment with a response on this one. So Base 10's machine says, I wish guys would take cues like this better. I've had boyfriends really misread a situation and start fights that put me in danger. Got an elbow to the face once. Thanks so much, Jeff, you big strong man, you. Good luck with your girl. Opie says, sorry to hear about catching the elbow. It was tough to control my feelings at first. We go to, until the injury, a lot of places where single people meet. Concerts, festivals, bars, clubs, rec sports, climbing gym. So guys are already looking for women to chat up. Not a great reflection on me, but one of the reasons I started to pay attention to her interactions was because I wanted to prove she was being flirty, and that was the real problem. Well, I realized she wasn't, and she was giving me no reason to be jealous. I remember some years back I was in like it's kind of like a pub / nightclub turns into a nightclub at a certain part of the night, and you know, it's pretty notorious around here about being a bit rough, I think it has to be said. Saturday night, cheesy 80s music going on, couple of drinks in, you know, having a little boogie around and all that sort of stuff, just, you know, in your own little world, having a little dance away. And you could see this guy who was clearly trying to flirt with this woman. This woman, she was like, I don't know how tall, she was tall though, she was real tall. And this guy keeps dancing up behind her, and she told him basically to fuck off a couple of times. She gave him ample warning, let me tell you. But he looked absolutely smashed to bits. And the reason why this was so funny to me, it's just the way he disappears at the door. So the dance floor's there, and if you just sort of picture it as a square, at the very end is the exit door, like 2 double doors, which are an exit. And this guy walks up behind her one final time. Well, it is the final time, because he puts his hands on her hips. She turns around and goes, will you just fuck off? And just launches him. He just flies out the double doors and never comes back. I've never seen the guy ever again. Could be in another dimension for all I know. I can just remember like stopping dancing. Well, most people stop dancing because, you know, a bit of an escalation, you know, and just thinking, fucking fair play, you know. But OP does update their post and said thank you to everyone that read and commented on my previous post. I was a nervous wreck writing it. I was trying to work up the courage to talk to her about our future and make sure we're on the same page. I knew she loves me and wants to be my wife, but she has a lot she wants to achieve, like going to grad school. I would have understood if she wanted to wait to get engaged. It still would have hurt though. She was sitting on the couch reading a book, and I was just looking at her. I was thinking, she's so amazing. Just talk to her. Everything will be fine. She looked at me through her big dumb glasses and smiled. That was the final push I needed. Fortunately, we were both in the same place and ready to take the next step. We just went on a long weekend. We were walking to a little spot with a beautiful view for a picnic and pretended to stumble and re-injure my knee. Pretty sure she didn't buy it, but she played along. She loved the ring and of course accepted. My previous post was a love and appreciation letter about her. I also wrote one to her that was much different and more personal. I wrote it by hand to give it to her when I proposed. She cried when I proposed and again when she read the letter. I also showed her the post later that day. She liked it. I got a couple of little laughs and a loving look from her. She said I was exaggerating. Those guys were all talk. She's not a badass. Men don't flirt with her that often. Women are rarely mean to her, and she'd kick my ass if I said otherwise. She was joking about that last part. I hope. I'm sticking by what I wrote. She's a tough badass in my eyes. I really enjoyed writing both the post and the letter. So I started handwriting her little letters and poems. They're pretty bad, but she keeps each one. She even printed the post and saved that. She tells me she loves my writing because it makes her feel more connected when I express my feelings. I think that's her way of saying that it's the thought that counts. I'm amazed and kind of afraid of my fiance. Aww. It's one of those posts where you just scrunch up your face and give it a good old aww. Congratulations on your engagement, and I really do hope things continue to move in the way that they are at the moment. It sounds like you a lovely little couple. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Wholesome ones are pretty rare to find these days, but they pop up occasionally. Let us know your thoughts. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love. Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story is titled, Am I the Arsehole for Ending Up in a Relationship with Someone My Ex Was Worried About? So, I, 27 female, left my ex, 32 male, around 4 months ago. It was a 5-year relationship. To say it was messy is an utter understatement. I knew that I was done with the relationship 12 months before I left, but due to financial and coercive control, I had to carefully plan my escape and used my self-built business as a shield and a way to get away from him. He was toxic to the core, and I spent a lot of my time walking on eggshells. I genuinely thought a lot of it was my fault because I went from being the main income earner to being disabled early on, and struggled to maintain a job due to my significant disability. I was screamed at daily, couldn't even sleep without there being an issue, was consistently held to a standard he wouldn't hold himself to, was responsible for all the cleaning, cooking, animal care, and anything financial he deemed. For example, he'd spend $400 without telling me, and expect me to fork it out. I was not allowed to have downtime for any hobbies, as if I was caught doing these things, I'd either get yelled at or systematically ignored or isolated. I could not have friends over, despite him constantly bringing people into the house. I could not go anywhere without his say-so. You get the picture. To add insult to injury, he demanded an open relationship for himself, but I was not to participate. Couldn't have a partner of my own, male or female. This all led me to eventually snapping and forced my hand in, leaving
you
Bye.
you
Bye.